welcome back. Week 16, you guys made it through the weekly classes. I'm really glad and really excited that you guys have kind of done this journey with us and that we're finishing strong for this portion. So I'm hoping that as we go along this class today that you will start to see the successes that you've had, or maybe see the things that you've struggled with that you're ready to deal with, or maybe make a change now. In today's class, we're just going to be talking about how to stay motivated to prevent type 2 diabetes. So we'll just go ahead and dive on in today. The first thing I want you guys to do is I want you to look at the goal that you set for your first week in this class. So take a second and flip through your binder and figure out what your goal was for week number 1. Okay, so now that you have hopefully found your goal for week number 1, I want you to think to yourself of maybe write down what was one thing that you felt like you did well with this goal. Maybe what was something that challenged you, or maybe what was something that you feel like you did not do very well with on this goal. So answer all 3 of those questions. What do you feel like you did well? What was something challenging about this goal? And maybe did you fail at part of this goal, or was there something you weren't able to accomplish? Okay. So now that you've kind of looked at that first goal, looked at maybe what were some things that were challenging, hopefully answering those questions weren't very hard of what were you able to do well with this goal on. So if you were looking at we're going to break it down into 2 categories: your eating and your fitness, because these both together are what is going to help you to lose that weight or help you to become healthier. So if we look at eating first, maybe think back over the last 16 weeks and think to yourself of what are some things that you have done that have changed since you started this class, food-wise. Have you stopped eating out as much? Maybe you have stopped choosing soda when you are at home or at the grocery store. Maybe you've started eating smaller portions. Maybe you have cut back on your sweets. Any of these are going to be awesome goals that you could have accomplished. So look back or think back either one of what have you done since we started. Okay, so now I also want you to think about fitness-wise. What are some healthy changes that you have made with your fitness levels? What are some things that have you started increasing your physical activity, or have you been more creative? Has it been a struggle to fit in that physical activity, and so you've kind of been planning and changing your lifestyle or your after-work life in order to fit that in? What have you done to help increase your physical activity? Okay, so I'm hoping that you've done at least one of those few things, that you have been able to increase that physical activity, or you've been able to change and do something that is helping you to become healthier and more active. And so now what I want you to do is I want you to think for the next 8 months of this program, which is a long time, but we've been in it for 4 months. So what are these things that you have been doing over the last 4 months are things that you think that you can continue to do without any problems? So go ahead and write that down. Okay, now I want you to write down something that you've been working on that maybe you haven't been quite successful with yet, but something that you want to see to happen over the next few months. Okay, so your goal can be anything. It can be anything about physical activity. It can be about losing weight. It can be about food, whatever you want it to be. But trying to figure out too, what is going to motivate you? Because it might not be the same thing. You at the beginning might have been motivated by just the idea of losing weight, but you might have gotten some of that weight off and you might be feeling pretty confident. And so you find that you're starting to slack a little bit. Oh, just one. It's okay, just one. And then one becomes one every day, and then it becomes 3 times a day, and you're back to where you were. So what can you do to help keep yourself motivated? Is it the idea of being able to play in the backyard with your kids more? Or maybe is it that you want to be able to take a trip and you want to be able to fit into a different size of clothing? Or maybe you want to just feel better after you finish eating and you don't want to feel groggy and just kind of gross. So any of those things can be great motivators. So write down what is going to motivate you. Okay, so now we've talked about kind of what goals we set at the beginning, what we struggled with, what we succeeded with, how we're going to stay motivated. But I also want you to think to yourself of what are some things, if you look back at what you just wrote down about things that were challenging or maybe you didn't succeed, look back and try to figure out what was that barrier, what kept me from succeeding. Because if just as motivating as when we do succeed, just as like motivating as it can be to see what we've done to succeed, sometimes also looking at what we did and what caused us to fail can also help us to be successful as well, because we know what not to do. So sometimes what we did is really helpful, but sometimes what we didn't do or what caused us to fail can also be helpful. So I don't want you to like beat yourself up that maybe you didn't do super well, but look at that and see, what can I do better this time? What will help me to actually meet that goal? So look at that and kind of think through that for a second. Okay, so so now we've talked about just different ways to stay motivated. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to look at Marie's story. And her story's on page 3. And she's worked really hard to stick to her plan. And as a result, she's reached her weight goal. And she's also reaching her activity goal. But strangely enough, once Marie meets her goal, she doesn't feel as motivated anymore. And she starts sliding back into her habits. So Marie decides to take action. She thinks about how far she's come, and she sets a new weight goal. And she commits to her healthy lifestyle all over again. And this time, she even gets her husband to join in. Sometimes, just continuing on, other people will buy in. They see that you've committed to this, and they see that you're not budging. And so they start to change. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're changing. But Marie was able to have an impact on somebody else's life by doing this. And so can you. So figuring out maybe ways to celebrate your successes as well would be helpful for you. So thinking to yourself of, what can I do to celebrate once I've reached my goal? I encourage you not to celebrate with food, though that's the thing we like to do, or I like to do most often. Figuring out what you can do to celebrate for yourself. So maybe it's starting a journal and flipping back through your journal to see kind of what you've done. Maybe it's telling coworkers or friends or family, thank you for supporting me on this journey. I know it hasn't been easy that we've started having healthier food or that I've said no to eating out, but thank you for supporting me because I'm healthier because of it. Or maybe you want to make a graph of your weight loss. Maybe you want to blog about your success or post it on social media. Whatever works for you, celebrate it. Be proud of what you've done. Be proud of your changes, because changing is not easy. It's actually really, really hard. So be proud of yourself for those changes you've made. But how to cope with these challenges that are up ahead? How do we prevent that backslide? How do we prevent going back to where we started? So some things that you might face is, I'm bored. The group isn't meeting as often, and so I don't have that accountability. I've reached my weight goal. I've gotten off track. My weight loss has slowed down, or I've made less progress than I expected to do. So on that second, or in that second column, there are different ways to cope. And so take a look at those and figure out maybe which of these do you think you need to work on? Which of these have you been struggling with the most? Okay, so I hope you went through and that you were able to mark off a few of these to figure out which of these are you feeling. Because sometimes we don't even know that we're struggling with something until maybe we see it on paper that, oh, I do feel like I've gotten off track, or I'm frustrated because my weight has slowed down, or my weight loss has slowed down. And if that's something that you're feeling, make sure that you are tracking what you're eating and what you're drinking. And my encouragement is to try and make your workout a little bit more intense. So that way then, you don't necessarily have to change your food, or if your food has gotten off and you notice that your weight has started to slow down, that weight loss has, then maybe that's what you need to change. Or maybe you need to make your workout a little bit more intense, or maybe you need to add an extra day to it. So whatever is going to work for you and work for what you're dealing with. If you feel like you're bored, try something new, try something different. Whether it's making a new recipe at home or trying a new workout, taking part in some competition here at work. We're doing a water challenge. So maybe at the school or maybe in our group we can have a challenge. And each month we have a challenge and we come back to see who's done the best. If you like that idea, give me some feedback. Tell me what we can maybe do a challenge of. Or I can also email you guys and tell you my thought that I had. If you feel like you've gotten off track, then you can get back on the wagon. You know, sometimes you do fall off, but that doesn't mean that you have to fall off forever. You can get back on and start over, and that's okay. So just to go ahead and wrap this up, make sure that you are proud of yourself, because we've all lost weight, we've all made changes, and they weren't easy. So remembering that when you might feel down or you might get frustrated, and go ahead and set that goal for what you want to work on over the next few months. There is a page, it's on page 4. So go ahead right now and set your goal for what you want to do over the next 6 months. And so it already wrote down an activity goal for you, but I don't like people making goals for me, so I want you to go ahead and also write down an activity goal of something that you want to work on. Okay, great. So now you have something that you want to work on, and that you can also set small goals inside of that of how you're going to get there. So that might be a big goal. So what are we going to do to take the small steps to get there? Other than that, we're not going to meet next Monday on the 11th, but we are going to, that's probably not the right date, but we are going to be meeting on February the 18th. Okay, so we're not meeting on the 11th. We will be meeting on February 18th. So come and weigh in, come and join us, come and see me. I look forward to talking to you guys, and have a great day.